You're watching Truth Talk News, where news the controlled mainstream and alternative media ignores is the top story.
The largest
Over the years,
intelligence
I've repeatedly made
apparatus
clear
in the world,
that we would take action
with the
within
biggest
Pakistan
budget in the
if we knew
history
where
of the
bin Laden
world,
was.
has been looking
what
for
we've done.
Osama bin Laden for
But it's
years and
important
years and years.
to note that our counterterrorism cooperation
can't
with
find
Pakistan
him.
helped lead us to
Some
bin Laden
doofus jerk-off
and the
reporter
compound where he was hiding.
with a camera crew
Indeed, bin Laden
walks us
declared
right
war
into his
against
hideout
Pakistan's
and
right.
interviews.
ABC
Ordered
News
attack.
So why
correspondent
do
John
all
Snyder
these
went to
fools believe
Afghanistan
this
to conduct
charade?
an interview
I called
with
President
bin Laden.
Zardari,
That a
and my
CNN
team has also
reporter and his
spoken
little
with their
camera crew
Pakistani counterparts.
can do
They agree that this is a
with
good
all
and
the money and
historic
all
day
the
for both
assets
of
and
our
all the
nations.
eavesdropping and
Going
all the
forward,
intelligence and
it
all
is
the
essential
satellites and
Pakistan
all the
continue
undercover
to join
operatives
us in the
in
fight
the
against
world
Al-Qaeda and its affiliates.
can never do.
The American people did not choose this fight.
It's because they're not
It came
trying,
to our
they don't
shores
want to.
and
Osama
started
bin
with the
Laden
senseless
is their
slaughter of our
creation,
citizens.
and he is serving
After
them
nearly
well.
10 years of service,
I mean, is this some kind of
struggle,
incredible joke?
and sacrifice,
that people are so
we know
stupid
well
they fall for
the
this?
costs of war.
And now we're being
These
bombarded
efforts
with
weigh on me every
messages
time
that
I,
Osama bin
as
Laden is
Commander-in-Chief, have
planning
to sign
to
a letter
attack
to
the
a
United
family
States
that
of
has lost a
America
loved one.
and Israel.
Or look into the eyes of a service.
Let me tell you something. If he's an enemy
been
of
gravely
Israel and the Mossad can't find him,
So Americans
then this
understand
thing is the
costs
biggest
of war.
joke that you ever heard of in your life.
Yet, as a country, we will never tolerate our
And I'm
security
telling you,
being
be
threatened,
prepared for a
nor stand
major
idly by when our
attack.
people have been killed.
But it won't be Osama
We will
bin
be
Laden.
relentless in defense of our
It
citizens.
will be
and our
those
friends and
behind
allies.
the New World Order
We will be true
once
to
again
the values that make us who we are.
want to
And on
take
nights like this one,
the guns
say to those
and the
families
freedom
who have
away
lost
from the
loved
American
ones
people because
to
we're the
Al-Qaeda's
only
terror,
ones left in the world
justice
who can oppose the destruction of freedom in the world and then the implementation of a one-world totalitarian socialist government, and that is the goal. And whatever is going to happen that they're going to blame on Osama bin Laden, don't you even believe it.
You'll see them and hear about them in the media, God willing.
Let me just comment, first of all, on the fact that
Hard as it is to believe now, this is what passed for news last week.
as many of you have been briefed, we provided additional information today about the site of my birth. We do not have time for this kind of silliness. We got better stuff to do.
Better stuff indeed. At this very moment, the biggest and most costly manhunt in U.S. history is building to a crescendo. The target, Osama bin Laden.
This is something that we've been after for 15 years. It goes back before 9/11.
What would become known as Operation Neptune Spear began last July, when after years of painstaking intelligence gathering, a CIA operative spotted bin Laden's trusted courier, a man known as Abu Ahmed al-Kuwaiti, in Peshawar, Pakistan. The president wants proof positive of bin Laden's death, not just a hole in the ground. If the operation is a go, it will be handled by the so-called silent option, the Navy SEALs. In April, units from SEAL Team 6 start training for the operation stateside, using a mock-up of the compound to familiarize themselves with its every structure, wall, and entrance.
People think bin Laden is hiding in the Hindu Kush, but did you know that every day from 4 to 5 he hosts a show on C-SPAN?
Saturday night is the White House Correspondents' Dinner. I sit next to Admiral Mike Mullen, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He's all small talk. You'd never know what was going on, while President Obama does some Oscar-worthy acting himself.
My fellow Americans, mahalo. It is wonderful to be here at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. What a week.
But behind the scenes, in the Situation Room, White House staffers and the military are beginning to gather. Sunday morning, Director Panetta goes to church. The president takes in 9 holes of golf. By 1 p.m., the national security staff is now gathered in the Situation Room, hooked into a live video feed from CIA headquarters.
We had set up an operations post here at the CIA, and I was in direct communication with Admiral McCraven, who was located in Afghanistan.
2:05 p.m., 11:05 in Abbottabad. The operation is Code Green, and the Navy SEALs, the silent option, are slipping over the base of the Himalayas with public enemy #1 in their crosshairs. Take elements from every spy movie, thriller, and action-adventure you have ever seen, and you have the reality of this operation.
This was a raid literally years in the making. U.S. intelligence painstakingly pursued a trusted courier used by Osama bin Laden. Now, the courier's pseudonym came from detainees being held at Guantanamo prison. It took 6 years then to uncover his real name, 2 more to learn his area of operations, and finally, almost 9 years after the September 11th attacks, the U.S. identified areas in Pakistan where the courier and his brother lived and worked. The courier was tracked to the compound in Abbottabad, about 100 kilometers north of the capital, Islamabad.
A mansion on 3 floors, high security walls, a place built to hide someone important. Planning intensified within the past few weeks, with the president chairing 5 National Security Council meetings. The final one, Thursday last week. The following day at 8:20 a.m., as the president prepared to leave the White House for Alabama, President Obama gave the go-ahead for a mission that had been rehearsed for months.
The end began with 4 U.S. military helicopters and 24 commandos arriving overhead. When some of the Navy SEALs landed on the ground, the assault teams stormed the compound. CIA Director Leon Panetta was quarterbacking the mission in secure radio contact with the assault team commander. But back at the White House, the president's national security team was anxiously watching video from the site. This ABC News video shows the aftermath inside the compound. 1 woman died in the firefight. The SEALs shot and killed the 2 brothers and bin Laden's son. And with a shot to the chest and 1 to the head, the SEALs killed Osama bin Laden. They identified his body and took it with them as they left the compound.
The operation lasted about 40 minutes. Though a U.S. helicopter crashed due to mechanical reasons, there were no U.S. casualties.
The minutes passed like days, and the president was very concerned about the security of our personnel.
And a senior official says there were 2 dramatic moments on Sunday afternoon in the White House Situation Room. First of all, when the president and his top aides heard the code Geronimo, EKIA, as in Geronimo, code for bin Laden, enemy killed in action.
In Iran, we see where the path of a violent and unaccountable ideology leads. The Iranian people have a remarkable and ancient history. And many Iranians wish to enjoy peace and prosperity alongside their neighbors. But just as it restricts the rights of its own people, the Iranian government continues to prop up a dictator in Damascus and supports terrorist groups abroad. Time and again, it has failed to take the opportunity to demonstrate that its nuclear program is peaceful.
There are a lot of people who lie and get away with it.
I don't know anybody that I can think of who has contended that the Iraqis had nuclear weapons.
And we believe he has, in fact, reconstituted nuclear weapons.
Saddam Hussein is determined to get his hands on a nuclear bomb.
We cannot wait for the final proof.
He's got him. He's got him.
The smoking gun.
He's got him.
That could come in the form of a mushroom cloud.
The lethality of their power is greater than ever. Their capacity to impose control over the politically awakened masses of the world is at a historical low. I once put it rather pungently, and I was flattered that the British Foreign Secretary repeated this, as follows. Namely, in earlier times, it was easier to control 1 million people, literally. It was easier to control 1 million people than physically to kill 1 million people. Today, it is infinitely easier to kill 1 million people than to control 1 million people.
I am delighted to be here in these new headquarters
I have been often to, I guess, the mothership in New York City, but it's good to have an outpost of the council right here down the street from the State Department. We get a lot of advice from the council, so this will mean I won't have this far to go to be told what we should be doing and how we should think about the future.
It's good to be back at the Council on Foreign Relations. As Pete mentioned, I've been a member for a long time and was actually a director for some period of time. I never mentioned that when I was campaigning for re-election back home in Wyoming.
Too many kids are what's making the planet worse.
A lot of these kids come from bad gene pools. They don't have stable parents making good decisions.
Mercury-containing vaccines may help, not harm kids, according to 2 new studies in the journal Pediatrics. These new studies suggest that the opposite, that the preservatives may actually be associated with improved behavior and mental performance.
Fluoride in water is supposed to fight tooth decay, but could it also cause cancer? Turns out the government had the right under U.S. law to conduct secret testing on the American public under specific conditions.
The government-sponsored experiments did take place at hospitals, universities, and military bases around our nation. Some were unethical, not only by today's standards, but by the standards of the time in which they were conducted.
Any attempt to achieve world order must be the work of the devil. Well, join me. I'm glad to sit here at the right hand of Satan.
There's a need for a new world order. Someday, in the next few years, a solution will emerge.
The Great Wall is no longer a wall dividing China from the rest of the world, but it is a reminder of the fact that there are many walls still existing in the world which divide nations and peoples. But we are determined that those differences not prevent us from living together in peace. The interest that each of us has to maintain our independence and the security of our peoples, and the hope that each of us has to build a new world order.
We are in process of developing a whole series of techniques which will enable the controlling oligarchy to get people actually to love their servitude. People can be made to enjoy a state of affairs which, by any decent standard, they ought not to enjoy.
What is at stake is more than one small country. It is a big idea, a new world order, where diverse nations are drawn together in common cause to achieve the universal aspirations of mankind: peace and security, freedom, and the rule of law.
Republican and Democratic presidents alike, from Harry Truman to George Bush, stood for freedom and stood for certain propositions that would make America strong and healthy and grow the middle class and shrink poverty and stand against communism. And after 1989, President Bush said, and it's a phrase that I often use myself, that we needed a new world order.
I think its task will be to develop an overall strategy for America in this period when really a new world order can be created. It's a great opportunity. It isn't just a crisis.
A new world is emerging. It is a new world order with significantly different and radically new challenges for the future.
The year is 2017. You're rushed to a hospital unconscious with no ID or medical history, but thanks to a microchip under your skin, it's all there. Science fiction 20 years ago, but a biometric reality today.
The technology is based on answering one simple question: am I who I say I am?
Already, fingerprints and iris scans verify passenger identities at airports. Within 10 years, that technology may be even more widespread. And look for more complex facial recognition programs that scan a crowd of thousands looking for a single terrorist. The latest home security locks use fingerprints to control deadbolts. And at the Jewel Osco grocery store in Chicago, some customers pay using their fingerprints. No paper or plastic.
You don't really need anything other than your hand, and you already got that with you.
Now the UN is backing a plan to change all of that and create a new global currency.
and Israel.
Or look into the eyes of a
Let me tell you something. If he's an enemy of Israel and the Mossad can't find him,
so Americans
then this thing is the biggest joke that you ever heard of in your life.
Yet, as a country, we will never tolerate our
and I'm
security
telling you,
being
be prepared for a
nor stand
major
idly by when our
attack.
people have been killed.
But it won't be Osama
We will
bin
be
Laden.
relentless in defense of our
It
citizens.
will be
and our
those
friends and
behind
allies.
the New World Order
We will be true
once
to
again
the values that make us who we are.
want to
And on
take
nights like this one,
the
we can
guns
say to those
and the
families
freedom
who have
away
lost
from the
loved
American
ones
people
to
because we're the
Al-Qaeda's
only
terror,
ones left with the
forward,
intelligence and
it
all
is
the
essential that
satellites and
Pakistan
all the
continue
undercover
to join us
operatives
in the
in
fight
the
against
world
Al-Qaeda and its affiliates.
can never do.
The American people did not choose this fight.
It's because they're not trying,
to our
they don't
shores
want to. Osama
started
bin
with the
Laden
senseless
is their
slaughter of our
creation,
citizens.
and he is serving
After
them
nearly
well.
10 years of service,
I mean, is this some kind of
struggle,
incredible joke?
and sacrifice,
that people are so
we know
stupid
well
they'll fall for
the
this?
costs of war.
And now we're being
These
bombarded
efforts
with
weigh on me every
messages
time
that
I,
Osama bin
as
Laden is
Commander-in-Chief, have
planning
to sign
to
a letter
attack
to
the
a
United
family
States
that
of
has lost a
America.
loved one.
You're watching Truth Talk News, where news the controlled mainstream and alternative media ignores is the top story.
The largest
Over the years,
intelligence
I've repeatedly made
apparatus
clear
in the
that
world
we would take action
with the
within
biggest
Pakistan,
butt in the world
justice,
who can oppose the destruction of freedom in the world and then the implementation of a one-world totalitarian socialist government, and that is the goal. And whatever is going to happen that they're going to blame on Osama bin Laden, don't you even believe it.
You'll see them and hear about them in the media, God willing.
Let me just comment, first of all, on the fact
in the
if we
history
knew
of
where
the
bin Laden
world
was.
has been looking
what
for
we've done.
Osama bin Laden for
But it's
years and
important
years and years.
to note that our counterterrorism cooperation
can't
with
find
Pakistan
him.
helped lead us to
Some
bin Laden
doofus jerk-off
and the
reporter
compound where he was hiding.
with a camera crew
Indeed, bin Laden
waltzes
declared
right
war
into his
against
hideout and
Pakistan.
interviews.
ABC News
So why do
correspondent John
all
Miller
these
went to
fools believe
Afghanistan
this
to conduct
charade?
an interview
I called
with bin
President
Laden.
Zardari,
That a
and my team
CNN
has also
reporter and his
spoken
little
with their
camera crew
Pakistani counterparts.
can do
They agree that this is a
with
good
all
and
the money
historic
and all
day
the
for
assets
both
and
of our
all the
nations.
eavesdropping and all